Above the North Sea they soar, their wings like white caps of the wind. So great are their numbers, these waters were once known as the Gannet's Bath. Generations of men have left their mark here, but Scotland's rugged shore will always belong to the fishers in the sky. More than 300 million years ago, magma spewed up from the seabed and created this rough-hewn land. Bass Rock itself is thought to be the plug of some long-dormant volcano. The island towers over 100 meters out of the water. Since the 10th century, it's played its part in Scottish history. It was a holy retreat for St. Baldred, a garrison and prison for Scottish lords, and finally a lighthouse post for the British government. But Bass Rock has really only ever had one master, the gannet. Every spring, tens of thousands come here to mate and breed. They settle so thickly that the dark rock is bleached white with their droppings. With a range that stretches from the Arctic Circle to the edge of Antarctica, the gannet is a far-flung and ancient breed. Magnificent flyer, its giant wings take full advantage of the offshore gales, allowing it to cover over 200 kilometers in one feeding expedition. But with its webbed feet, it's also at home in the water. In such a congested neighborhood, coming in for a landing seems foolhardy, but the gannet has perfected the vertical drop. Also known as the Solent goose, it stands just under a meter and weighs about 3 kilos. Its meat has long been considered a delicacy and was a favorite of Queen Victoria. But the gannet would much prefer to eat than be eaten. In fact, its hunting technique is nothing short of aerial acrobatics. Like dive bombers, they hurl themselves into the waves from as much as 30 meters above. To soften the blow of the water's impact, gannets have cushioning air sacs under their skin. And although they are considered surface feeders, they can dive as deep as 25 meters. Their keen eyes are peeled for schooling fish like herring and pilchard. And at this time of year, they are also looking for a mate. His one and only may appear befuddled, but to gannets, this is a come-hither look. This couple has already produced the season's single egg. Mates for life, a gannet pair may breed together for 3 decades or more. Clacking raised beaks together helps the pair get reacquainted after a long winter's separation. Gannets have a full repertoire of communicative gestures. Every day their feathers need a tune-up to maintain insulation, waterproofing, and flight efficiency, so they take turns preening each other. It's remarkable how tender a beak can be. But wide open, it warns others to stay off a bird's turf. Like a crowded beach strewn with too many blankets, the rocks can be tricky to negotiate, especially for birds that lack established territories. When polite suggestion fails, boundary disputes can get heated. This time, the gannet's long beak serves as a deadly serrated dagger. After smoothing the ruffled feathers, the couple finally gets down to business. Gannets are as faithful to each other as they are to the site of their tryst. 95% of gannet pairs move back to the same nest each year. But that doesn't mean they're satisfied with the accommodations. In fact, they're constantly redecorating. Over the next 40 days, the two will take turns brooding the egg, and the nest sees many improvements. Each time there's a change of guard, the returning parent brings back something new to patch up the nest. A sculpture of seaweed and other sea treasures cemented by guano, the gannet's nest is a tribute to its ocean home. Gannets may be the lords of Bass Rock, but they are hardly alone here. Such a large store of delectable eggs is irresistible to visiting scavengers like herring gulls. Right under their noses, the gull steals the gannet's only egg. Still, the island is well fortified against thieves. For the same isolation that once made Bass Rock a good hideout for the boy king James II makes it a perfect breeding place for seafaring birds. How to raid a guillemot colony. Not only is it precariously perched on the steepest of ledges, but the birds are so tightly packed, the sheer numbers confuse raiders and scavengers. Inside guillemot society, relationships are intricate and testy, whether the birds are mating or fighting over space. Body language and a wide range of vocalizations are usually enough to work things out. In this case, raised wings are the equivalent of a no trespassing sign. Guillemots don't bother with a nest, laying their hard-shelled eggs right on the rock instead. A shag brings an offering of seaweed for the nest it makes on these rocky ledges. In summer, it sports a crest on the top of its shiny black head. A member of the cormorant family, it has a wedged tail and webbed feet that act as propellers when it dives for fish. Its feathers need to be hung out to dry. The pair take turns feeding their brood. Like the shag, the greater cormorant is an underwater pursuit diver, reaching depths of 30 meters. Guillemots leave the colony after only 3 weeks, not even half-grown and still flightless. For their first several weeks at sea, they're cared for by their fathers and occasionally by Providence, sometimes in the form of a wood raft. Fate hasn't been so kind to the elegant razorbill. Its feathers, flesh, and eggs have made it a special target for hunters. That's the appeal of Bass Rock. Like a protective castle tower, its inaccessible ledges give them a chance to breed unhindered, although it can be a long step down for a fledgling. The Atlantic puffins may perch close to the edge, but they burrow their nests deep into the face of these cliffs. Brightly colored beaks are a sign that it's mating season. A puffin would never lay an egg on the bare rock as some other birds do. Nor would the black-legged kittiwakes. They fly just across the waters known as the Firth of Forth to a different world. Summer is a time of renewal. All around, Scotland's coast is consumed in an explosion of life. The kittiwakes prefer this more domesticated side of the harbor to the wild haven of Bass Rock. Why settle for mere rocks when you can raise your young in a castle? Hungry mouths wide open and beaks pecking, the young chicks rely on regular feedings by both adults for over a month. But even if kittiwakes have reclaimed Mary Queen of Scots Castle, they still have to share fishing grounds with the village of North Berwick. And the fishermen have to share with another resident. Near the village, the rocky shore provides respite and a nursery for gray seals. Even in the cold of winter, when the sun hardly shines at all, a thick layer of fat keeps these islanders warm. Awkward on land, they are masters of the water. The diet of these prolific hunters comes entirely from the sea. Cephalopods, shellfish, sole, and flounder, up to 10 kilos of fish a day. They're no friend to the fishermen who say they raid their nets, but it can be an amusing swimming companion for a diver. In the water, a seal is as powerful as it is graceful. When frightened, it can cut through the water at speeds up to 15 kilometers per hour. But there's no escape from the decimation of its fishing grounds. The North Sea was once a banquet for creatures of the air and the sea. Hundreds of species, from crustaceans and fish to whales and dolphins, once thrived here. Overfishing and dumping changed all that, and what was left of the North Sea's wildlife community had to adjust. In fact, one animal does surprisingly well in the wake of the fishing boats. Gannets scavenge fish tossed overboard. As September comes to the bird castle called Bass Rock, activity in the gannet colony has reached a fever pitch. Territorial battles turn vicious, for now it's more crowded than ever. Many of the chicks have hatched, though a few anxious parents are still waiting for theirs. The young go through a series of transformations so radical that they hardly look like they're from the same family. When born, gannets are nearly naked. A wisp of a creature only a mother could love. Within a day, though, down appears, and by the end of 2 weeks, they are as fluffy as a cotton ball. Their feathers are dark at first. For several months, the young have a half-finished, mottled appearance. It will be 3 years before they achieve the snowy plumage of their parents. Feeding their helpless offspring preoccupies the parents, who regurgitate small fish for the chicks. After several weeks, they grow even heavier than their parents, storing up fat to live on until they can hunt for themselves. The herring gulls, meanwhile, are back and have chicks of their own to feed. This gannet's one and only chick will not survive. It will become a meal for the visiting scavengers who have come to do what they do best, clean up. At about 90 days old, the gannet chick will turn to the sea. And with each passing year, they become more like their parents. Their earthbound time here gives way to a freewheeling coastal existence. And when the instinct to nest returns, they'll come back to their island protector. Born of a volcano, swept by the wind, hounded by the surf, Bass Rock is a fortress for the fishers in the sky.